Well, Matt, that brings us to the end of your prospecting program. And I think for our listener, they've just been right through that audio. But what I would like to do now is do an executive summary, and we might even use this visual to allow us to get the listener to understand just how your prospecting program works. And it starts at the top. You've selected your area, and that has 1,200 homes, which allows you to prospect. What happens to the right of that?
With the area also, between 1,000 and 1,500 is the ideal number. The next sequence is the prospecting. There's 5 things that fall under the prospecting category, and I don't think any of them are negotiable. They're all non-negotiables in my opinion. So CMA, 10 CMAs a day, and then they have 6-month updates for them as well. Door knocking, I think everyone should do an hour of door knocking a day. I know it sounds very primitive, but it works.
Well, get you face-to-face in a time that everything's email and no one's connecting anymore.
Yes.
And as we look at these 5 items, they are your prospecting menu.
They are, exactly right. A letter or a DL every 4 weeks in your area. 100 calls a week minimum, I believe. They're cold calls just to the general area, asking people either do they want to sell or calling them about just listed, just sold, whatever it may be.
Matt, you use the word cold calls when, and we all understand that term, but they're actually resident calls because it is your area and you're trying to warm up that data.
Definitely, yeah. And after a while, they convert to warm calls because you've done it so much. And then thank you cards written to every person that you speak to, either door knocking or cold calling.
If we've completed that activity, we can see the fork in the road here. They're going to be a market opinion or a pipeline. Take us through how they both go to the database, but what you do then.
Okay, so there's only 2 outcomes, the market opinion or pipeline. You database them. Now, the database, I'm careful with what I database. So pipelines, for instance, you need to put them in. The people that are even have any inkling of possibly selling in 3, 4, 5 years' times, they're very important. And the people that you go and see, obviously the market opinions, they go into the categories within the database nurturing system.
And if we look at the large circle, which is what you're calling your database categories, just give us some definition around these.
For sure. There's 5 categories in my database. So there's market opinion, which we just spoke about. Pipeline, that's anyone who you might just want to keep in contact with in your area. Client A's, that's any past transactions. Client AA's are your top 100 referral people. And also your CMAs, that's where you monitor the 6-month updates. So we'll talk about that at the very end as well.
Let's drop down to listings.
Okay, so from those 2 outcomes, market opinion, pipeline, the database, they're nurtured over time, they're going to turn into a listing. So when you list a property, I think there's something that needs to happen every single time. It's a 10 by 10 by 20 door knock, so 10 either side of the house and 20 across the road. The letters or cards have got to go out just listed, so to the street and surrounding streets, and then the calls as well on top of that.
This is very interesting because, again, you're engaging yourself face-to-face. You've still got letters and cards, but we're using a blended prospecting approach and not just relying upon one method.
Exactly. It's a 3-tiered prospecting coverage for each listing.
Now, off our listing circle, we've got the VM plan, which is your vendor management plan.
Yeah, how do you sell a property? Like what are the letters that the people get? What's the timing? What's the reports? How often do you meet with them? When do you do the set to sell, etc., etc., etc.? So that's got to be outlined, and I think every agent should have a vendor management plan.
And a vendor management plan is that delivery of service. It's why people re-engage you in the future. It's its own micro prospecting campaign when done well, but we're in a prospecting program at the moment, so we can see where that lives as an entity. But if we now move down towards buyers.
Yeah, okay. Well, obviously you have the listing. Buyers are going to inquire. You'll have buyers off your database, off the internet. So if we go to the left-hand circle on that, or the circle just off that, hot buyers and buyers, there are 2 categories I have in my database. The hot buyers are the ones I work with every single day. I go and find them a property. I might have 20 to 30 hot buyers in my database at any one time. And I mean hot, hot, hot. Not, oh, I hope maybe we'll buy a house sometime. They're ready to go. They've got the money. They want to buy something now. They're busting.
They need a home.
That's exactly right. I will go and door knock for those people. I'll go, if I know what style of home that they like, I'll go and actively find a place for them. So that's where I spend most of my time with buyers.
And isn't it amazing how you would door knock with a compelling message because you've got somebody that wants this street, I've got the money, I just need the right home. you're a far more powerful prospect or prospector when you've got a compelling reason to find a home for someone.
You do. I believe with prospecting, you've got to find the opportunity to go prospect with, like you just said. I think sometimes agents scratch their head and think, well, what will I call about? I don't really have anything to call about. I won't even call. Whereas I'll look for any opportunity to go and meet more people.
Now, below that, you've got buyer cleansing plan.
Yes, yeah. So the bulk of the buyers are in there. You might have a few hundred people in there. Every 6 weeks, they'll receive an email asking them if their criteria has changed or they'd like to be taken off the database if they've stopped looking.
And this is your testing of data, because quite often we think they're not going to do anything, and suddenly they bought something because their plan changed overnight. Maybe they had an offer on their place that they didn't think they were going to get, and now they've got nowhere to live. But if we keep listening to the story of 2 weeks ago, we could be 2 weeks behind the market.
100%. So you've got to be right on top of that. I give that part of the database more focus in cleansing than I do servicing. Like I let the alerts go through and I'll call some of them, but I'm more interested in turning them into really hot buyers, and then every day they'll get contact from me pretty much.
So with those buyers, as we drop down, you're trying to escalate or extract an offer out of them for the opportunity to negotiate or get a sale.
Yep.
But either one moves back to the database.
It does. Just on that offers, like that'll turn into an offer and, a sale. The negotiate part for me, that says to me, I've got to be a great negotiator. So that's just something that's a bit side from this. But role-playing negotiation is something that I've done almost every day for many, many, many years.
And Matt, by being a great negotiator in front of this person, you're also sending the signal that should you buy this, you also need to engage me on your own home if it isn't sold, or to the next person who says, what's the best agent you've met so far? It's that clean signal.
It is. It's everything about this is prospecting. Even that practicing negotiation, it's future prospecting. So then obviously the property sells, you need an exchange and settlement plan. How does that happen? How does that run within your business? And then that leads into only 2 contacts into the database. Client A, which is a transaction, and client AA. So the buyer and the seller need to go into one of those 2 categories.
And how interesting, so many agents don't understand the importance sold to settlement prospecting. We think we've sold them that house, they've got something, onto the next one from the pot. Yet all the referrals, all the incredible signals, and all the disasters actually happen when the owner sees, okay, now it's been signed, how will you treat me till the end?
That's right. Over the years, owners have said to me, if I haven't called them enough through that period, like, where did you go? Where have you gone? And in their mind, I've learnt big lessons from that, because in their mind, they've got a connection with you, and then all of a sudden we move on to something more interesting, or it's finished and something that's happening live now. Whereas the owner, they still want that energy to keep going.
Well, they got very close to you.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's like over.
Yeah, that's right.
And take this the right way, listener. They can think, did you just fake that until I signed the paperwork, and you don't really like me?
Yeah, that's right.
And as agents, we just get busy, but we shouldn't forget sold to settlement prospecting. I think it's a crucial part, and this is where your arrow goes right up through the arch now back in the database nurturing plan, because more than ever now, within 12, 18 months, 3 years, we're seeing these back wanting a market opinion to get back on the market.
Definitely. And that's where the loop goes to in those 5 categories. And then you plan around that. You need to have a marketing calendar that takes care of all of this to let you know when to send, what to send, and how to send any of these things to these people in the future over the years.
And if we look at it in a holistic way, or hovercraft above this particular diagram, those market opinions pipeline, client A, client AA, CMA, is actually the reproduction of the area, because the person who left the dwelling has now got the new person in the dwelling. It's the same dwelling, just with a new relationship, but the fact you've had the opportunity of this system to get warmed up through buyer management and communication, this is why the momentum kicks in. The second-time owner has an experience with you. Now, that could be good or bad. Not everything goes right. We understand that. But over a period of time, it's natural to get like a 30% market share due to the reproduction of the data, and it comes in warm to hot now versus when you started the area cold.
Very true. So true. This is a flow chart, and that's exactly what it is. It's a flow chart for business, and business will flow if you just follow these things. The number one thing that I notice out of this, and I look at agents that I do know, is I can see where the holes are in agents' business. like just by this, even with prospecting, there's 5 things there. Most agents just do 1 or none sometimes. And you go through this and you can notice very easily where you need to fill different parts of your own business.
Well, Matt, I can assure you from a coaching perspective, and you know this from a practitioner's perspective, that if this flow chart is managed, a part of your life, career and business plan, you'll never be short of business. And the structural change that happens here is you actually get the business you want, not the business that's left over from the other companies. And some people complain to me about their owners and these people won't do this. You've got the owners you deserve. And if your prospecting program's as refined as this, you are getting a better grade of client who will listen to you, respect you, and that's what gives you an incredible business.
Exactly.
Matt, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Lee.